Parker looked in the mirror. He felt his scar, a smile that was forcefully stitched in his face. Although the stitches were thankfully taken out, his scar persisted. Parker exhaled. Everything had happened so quickly. His sister was insane, his parents had passed away, and now he was by himself. Parker was lucky to get an apartment with his father's credit card. However, not only would Parker need to find some way to pay it off, but if the authorities found out, he'd be put in an orphanage. Parker was only 13. Parker stepped out of the bathroom and fixed his gaze on his baseball bat. Parker recalled what the police had stated regarding his sister's visit to the hospital prior to she went insane. The hospital was suspicious and strange. The cops didn't trust it. Parker had pretended to have a living grandparent in order to keep himself from being placed in an orphanage. Parker believed that her insanity might be related to the hospital. After grabbing his bat, he left the apartment. He would look into it and discover something, a closure of sorts. The hospital was located on the outskirts of town. It was convenient for his family, but Parker always thought the hospital was strange. The staff was always carrying bags that smelt like rotten flesh. Parker was repeatedly told that it was only donated organs. Parker noticed the hospital in sight. It had been abandoned for several days, most likely due to the deaths of patients and doctors. Parker pushed the front door open. "Hello? Is anyone there?" yelled Parker. He wasn't sure why he tried. There was no one there, maybe a few squatters, but other than that, no one. Parker sighed and continued moving forward. Parker decided to go to hospital's administrator's office. The paint on the walls were peeling off, and Parker had the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Parker eventually made it to the administrator's office, where he attempted to unlock the door but found it jammed. Parker pressed his body into the door, which eventually relented and opened. Parker coughed as the dust filled his lungs. Parker examined the administrator's desk and saw a stack of documents. Parker walked up to the desk and examined the documents. It discussed selling the organs of the crazy patients. Parker could not believe it. This hospital attempted to sell the organs of people suffering from mental health issues. Parker stepped back. Was the hospital going to do that to his sister? Parker stared at the clock on the wall, and the minute and hour hands started moving backwards. As Parker looked at the desk, he was tackled by a shadowy figure wearing a white mask with a gaping black smile. Upon getting up, he saw that he was not in the hospital but rather in a pitch-black emptiness with a rough stone floor. Parker held up his baseball bat and walked forward. "Hello!" yelled Parker. Parker turned around to see Hadley, his friend, lying limp on the floor with a gash across her throat. Parker reached for Hadley, but her body into another of those shadowy things and grabbed Parker's arm. It got up and threw Parker to the floor. He glanced at the shadowy thing, and more of them appeared. They reached for Parker, but he stood up and escaped. However, Parker was snatched by a black tendril. Parker noticed hundreds of eyes staring at him. He heard a variety of things, including horrors from his past. How his sister went insane, his house burned down, and he lost everyone. Parker realized who was doing this. It was him, the monster that stitched this smile in Parker, the one who claimed everyone had a breaking point, and the one who killed Hadley. Parker pushed himself free of the black tendril and turned around to run. He had to run. No, he had to take revenge. Parker spun around to face the mass of eyes. There, he saw a glint of gold, a golden pocket watch. Parker closed his eyes and inhaled before rushing into the mass of eyes. Parker took hold of the pocket watch. The black void receded, revealing the hospital and the one responsible, the Armator. The Armator stood with his arms crossed. It was undoubtedly the Armator. His dark robe, gray bandages on his arms, and black, expression-changing mask all confirmed it. His usual white smile turned into a somewhat annoyed frown. He then slyly smiled. Well, you're smarter than I thought," said the Armator. Parker, angry, flung the pocket watch to the ground, smashing it. The Armator stared at the broken pocket watch and realized what it meant. The Armator could not create any more illusions. The Armator used the golden pocket watch to maintain his illusions. If he wanted to make more, he'd have to find another valuable object. The Armator took a step back, his expression shifting to a terrified, yet slightly amused smile. The armateur held his hands up, winked. "You kill me, you will never know peace," said the armateur. "You won't get her back." Parker swung at the armateur's face, cracking his mask. "Oh, I know," said Parker. "But your time ends here, bitch." The armateur chuckled. "Oh well, I may have not broken you, and I guess my time's up. But I'll be back. You can't get rid of me." The armateur fell to the floor, clearly pretending to be frightened. "You won't escape me," said the armateur. "I'll always be there, that dark whisper, my master will revive me." Parker raised his bat before saying, "Your time here is up." Parker swung his bat, shattering the armateur's mask completely. The expressions on armateur's mask disappeared. The armateur tumbled to the ground. Parker let out a sigh of relief. Was it over? Parker wasn't sure. Parker got up and left. He knew what he needed to know. Now, he had to figure out what to do next. Parker stared at his hands. What now? Meanwhile, in the hospital, the armateur's limp body lay, with one of his arms reaching for the shattered pocket watch. When I was a kid, I used to play down by the creek that was behind my house. I'd throw rocks, play with plastic army men, make little houses out of mud and sticks, having them sink into the creek. On a particular hot day in July, when I was about 9, I was sitting by the edge of the creek. I had my feet in the water trying to cool down as the day was unbearably humid. I had my eyes closed and didn't hear her walk up. "Hello," I heard an older voice say. I open my eyes and see a thin middle-aged woman wearing a thin white dress, walking barefoot carrying a box under an arm. I recognized the box as a fishing tackle box that looked similar to my dad's, only a different color. I thought it was strange that she had a tackle box but no fishing poles. "Hey, lady," I asked, "how are you going to fish if you don't have any poles?" She smiled at me and made eye contact. I wish she hadn't. Being as young as I was, I didn't quite understand it, but I felt slightly scared when I looked into those eyes. There was just something so fake about the happiness in them. It was like staring into the plastic eyes of a stuffed animal. They were made to look happy, but wasn't the real thing. Her mouth was stretched into a grin that slightly quivered. She spoke in a hushed, smoky voice of fragile composure. "Oh no, little boy, I'm not fishing. I'm using this for something very special." The way she said that last part really sent alarms off, even for a child as young as I was. She said it with a girlish giggle that sounded more like a recording, an imitation. I didn't want to ask what it was and began to walk away. Then she spoke again. "I was going to do it by myself, but I think I need a little helper." Her eyes got wider and she started to walk towards me. "No, that's okay," I shouted and ran away from the woman into my house and locked the door. I told my mom about it and she went outside, but the woman was already gone. A few days later my mom approached me with a worried look on her face and showed me a picture she cut out of the newspaper. "Honey, that woman you saw on Tuesday. Was this her?" She showed me a photo of a woman standing with a man by a house, both of them with ear-to-ear smiles. It was her without a doubt. Those blank eyes were not something you can forget. I said, "Yes, she was." I made a frightened face and my mom looked down, dropping the photo, and hugged me. "Oh honey, I would never let anyone hurt you," she cried. I was confused but was glad she was comforting me. My mom had a police officer come talk to me. The officer and I played with my action figures for a while we talked. He asked me about the lady. I told him the same story I told my mom, and I saw the same worried expression my mom had. "Wow, she sounds really scary," he said, the way adults do when they talk to children. He showed me a photo line-up of various women's ID photos and asked me if I can pick her out. I immediately do, as she is the only one with a smile. She kept smiling at me. That smile looked wrong. When I told the officer this, he froze and went a little pale for a second. "Yes, it must have been very scary, but you sound very smart for being able to get away from her," he said in that same adult tone to please children. "Who is she?" I asked, serious. The cop paused and looked at me in sorrow. "She was hurt very badly, and we needed to talk to you to know when you saw her so we can guess when she got hurt." That answer satisfied me, and I didn't ask about it anymore. A few weeks later, the local police department sent me a certificate for a junior PI for my help with the case. My parents said they were very proud of me, but they'd often still glance at each other with that same worried look whenever I brought it up. Soon after, they forbid me to go to the creek alone. Years later, I'm in college getting my master's in criminal justice, and working as a file clerk at the local police department part-time. One day, I run into the same officer that talked to me that one day at a mutual friend's birthday party. He was already long retired, but still remembered me. We begin to talk when I bring up my certificate jokingly and asked if he remembered that case. He went silent and looked down at his drink. "Yeah, I remember that one all right." He got up and motioned me to follow him somewhere more private. Outside, he lit up a cigarette and told me the story. That woman was a recent divorce whose husband she discovered was cheating on her for a much younger woman. He said that when they interviewed her friends, she still continued to be chipper, and everyone thought she was just being optimistic. She lived about a mile from my house, but by the same creek. Her husband loved to fish as a hobby. That day, just an hour before I saw her, she broke into her ex-husband's home, found his new wife on the bed sleeping, and strangled her with a cord before stealing her husband's tackle box. The officer began to shake when he explained what she did next. She climbed up into a tree. Sitting on a branch, she opened the tackle box. Taking out all the hooks, she threaded fishing lines through them and tied them to the same end of the branch. After she tied about 10 hooks on fishing lines, she took them all in her hand. She swallowed all of the hooks and jumped off the branch. The coroner estimated that she was hanging there for half an hour before she bled to death. But the worst part, the officer, now almost in tears, stammered to say, was that smile. Even dead, she still had on a fucking smile. Blood everywhere, her eyes were rolled back till you only saw the whites, but she still had a big ear-to-ear smile. After hearing this, I immediately thought what she would have done to me and what I would have seen if I agreed to be her helper. I do not know this man. I do not know this man in the mirror. The one staring right back at me, moving his eyes to reflect wherever I look. He does every single thing I do. Makes every single face, pokes back at fingers aimed against the glass, and turns his back when I turn mine. To the untrained eye, it looks as any normal reflection does, behaves as any mirror is designed to do. There is nothing obviously out of the ordinary that would arouse suspicions otherwise. But as of a few restless nights ago, my rationality has flipped completely on its head. I cannot explain what changed in the span of those 24 hours. The mirror looks exactly the same as it did. My reflection retains its likeness. What changed? Maybe nothing did. Maybe nothing did. Perhaps it's always been this sinister copycat game, and I'm only just noticing. This must have been an error on the other man's part. That has to be it. Even a master will slip up his own craft over years of perfection. Why else would I suddenly realize this awful, determined creature was lurking on the other side of that frame? Sometimes I spend hours at a time staring at that mirror. I abandon sleep for a greater mission. All things considered, a lack of sleep may be contributing to my paranoia, but even so, I haven't been able to depart my attention to anything else. If I stare long enough, the glass seems to evaporate and leave open an entrance into the other side. It's as if I could reach right through to an identical room. Furniture indistinguishable from the originals arrange themselves in duplicate form. From a central standpoint between the two, the rooms would complete a symmetrical presentation. However, I am reasonably less concerned about the layout. It's that godforsaken double standing right at the front. He never falters. He is always ready. Sometimes I will stay as still as possible, testing its patience, hoping it will tire, even bore of mimicking my every waking moment. Other times I will yell, flail, threaten, even exert myself as much as I can in hopes of catching even the smallest of errors. At the very least, I would have proven I hadn't been imagining the whole ordeal. I don't believe I could ever forgive myself for wasting days, even years of evincing something so trivial. I'd rather die than accept that I have gone mad. Even if I did turn out to be right, what would it matter to me? Nothing's ever happened. If it had been here since the beginning without harm, it made little sense for the thing to start now. I can think of only one simple cause for wariness. The man knows that I know about his little game. He's been compromised, and sooner or later he knows I will find a way to defeat it. I have prompted it to cease acting in a defensive stance and switch gears violently into aggression. I could have been safe from its wrath if I never discovered anything peculiar. Or worse, the thing had a sick plan from the beginning to build my trust long enough that I would never think to doubt anything as ordinary as my own reflection. I imagine it will be of great satisfaction to eventually reap such pent-up rewards, just for the thrill. Surely the right time to strike would be at the climax of my terror, when I did finally realize that my reflection was not even my own. Not having even a moment to comprehend what I'd been subject to for years without a single worry. I feel incredibly alone, but I cannot bring myself to tell others what I am afraid of. They would think I finally lost my mind, seemingly for no reason at all. I have thought about breaking the mirror, but I am apprehended by the idea that should the glass break, be there any glass in the first place, he will lunge at me. Lunge at my throat and squeeze tight. However, an even worse thought has been keeping me awake at night. What if there never was any glass? How many nights have I slept unwittingly with an open doorway right into my house, with no sliver of glass to divide us? How many nights has that creature stepped out of his portal and watched me from an even smaller distance? One that if I awoke at the wrong time, he would have no choice but to snuff me out. I could not calmly imagine opening my eyes and being face to face with my own visage. A threatening one, no less. God, when I think about perhaps not touching glass at all, but instead pressing cold fingertips, and the empty air transferring between realms as easily as a breeze through an open window, I shudder to even look in the direction of that mirror. How many times have I breathed towards the mirror, assuming that the air coming back to deflect is still mine? Do they breathe at the same time as me? I don't think I'd be able to handle it if they breathed before me, and foreign hot air hit my face. I would never enter that room again. My paranoia has expanded to other mirrors. Any reflection that catches my eye causes a bout of anxiety that is difficult to shake without leaving the room entirely. There are mirrors everywhere, no matter where I go. It seems there are more than there used to be before I was afraid of the man waiting in mine. I spend the most time walking with my head down, and doing the same when I converse with strangers and family. When I do sleep, I dream of people I know suddenly taking the form of my wretched reflection when I look back up at them. That fear has seeped into my reality. I hate mirrors. Knowing that I have no way of reassuring myself one way or the other what is true suffocates me. I do not have an answer. I am so incredibly unsure. I feel safe around transparent glass such as windows and store displays. I savor the reassurance from proof of an entirely different world on the other side. The reflection I see of myself is entirely my own. But pure mirror glass is unpredictable. The biggest problem that causes me conflicting doubt is that these fears have been based on some self-sabotaging kind of intuition. Intuition, that's all. Well, they used to be anyway. Last night I looked into the mirror for hours like I always do, and as I faced up against my likely antagonist, I noticed it. On the other side, in the reversed room, flowers that I'd kept on my desk for at least a week, fresh and healthy as they started, while mine in my own world were noticeably beginning to wilt.